Good afternoon, everybody. It is Friday, the 4th of June. We are into summer, well and truly, thank goodness, and the weather is agreeing with us as well. It is my delight to welcome you to Lessons in Leadership today. My name's Mary Gregory, and I have a fantastic guest for us today. It is Mark Terrell. Hello, Mark.
Hello, Mary.
Lovely to have you here. Now, Mark is the director and the founder of the Reluctant Leaders Academy, which I can hardly say because I have to own up to the fact that I am a reluctant leader myself. So it's been part of my journey to kind of become aware of that, first of all, and then take myself on in that respect. So I can't wait to hear more from you in terms of what caused you to set up an academy for other leaders that might identify with this whole thing about being reluctant. So
yeah, I'm happy to share whatever I know.
I'm interested, first of all, how did you get to be the founder of the Reluctant Leader Academy? What was your journey leading up to that? What did you do? What's your background?
Well, my background is I joined a family retail business from school. I sort of dragged into that by my dad, who had set the business up about 18 months before I was due to leave school, and the business was starting to sort of take off. So he needed some help, and I was the person he wanted to help from. I was put in a bit of a dilemma because my teachers were telling me that I should stay on and do my A levels, and then my parent or my father was saying, "I've got a job for you. Why would you want to stay on and get education?" And you can see obviously where he was coming from, but obviously where the teachers was coming from. So at 16, I was pulled in sort of two directions, and my dad sort of won the day, being that I am that sort of way. I'm very green energy, so I want to keep everybody happy. So that's something that I've reflected on over the years.
Yes.
So I joined that business, and it was very exciting. We grew it from a very small base up to 2 stores, turning over about 3.5 million a year, 45 staff, and I enjoyed the process of getting of building the business and being part of it. But when I started to feel a bit, well, is it now? Was when I got to the point where I was in charge, the one, that leadership role that I was destined for, but probably not prepared for.
Right. Okay.
And that's basically what happened to me. And then, what was it? 7 years ago, we had a knock on the door, and a national retailer wanted to buy the store I was running. So that gave me an opportunity to get out, do something different. Reflect on what my experience, and then I thought, I want to help those people that maybe have got into the same position that I got into.
Yes. So when you joined your father's company, were you not reluctant at that point? Was that actually that was keeping everyone else happy? Did you feel okay at that point?
Well, yeah, because I was just coming up at the bottom end. I was bagging up potatoes and all that stuff in our retail business, literally just learning the ropes, doing everything that my father had done, I suppose, when he started his retail career. So I wasn't in any sort of management leadership position at that stage. I was just really shop floor, day to day, doing what needs to be done.
So you were happy with the operational side, doing what needed to be done. It was only when you were asked to step up and lead was it leading the whole company, or was it being a leader in the company?
I thought it's only when I got to the point of when I was actually in charge of the business. Yeah, that was that. I took on responsibility as I went by, and I took on like a department head and all those sort of things that come along, and that wasn't a big problem because I still felt that I was still part of the team, still part of what was going on. It's when you get to that point as a business owner where leadership skills that you need are maybe not something that you sort of picked up along the way.
Yes.
In saying that, I did have an intuitive sort of ways about me that actually we had low staff turnover, and we were successful. So there wasn't nothing that went dramatically wrong. But I looking back now, that I could have been far more prepared, and actually I could have enjoyed the role more if I had known what I know now.
Yes. So you didn't do a bad job, is what I'm hearing, particularly if you got bought by an international retailer. What was the business, by the way? You say it was retail business. What sort of retail was it?
It was what we call now convenience stores, but back on the old days, back in the 80s, it was just a grocery store, which was opening, normal sort of hours.
Yes.
And one of the things that we were at the forefront of was what is now known as the convenience store, 7 days a week, early till late.
Right.
And we were one of the first independent stores to sort of take that route, and that was a catalyst for much of our success.
Wow. Okay. So tell me a bit then, when you were in that role as leading the whole business, what was your experience at that point that got you to start realizing, oh God, I'm not, what was it you felt you needed to do that you weren't doing, I suppose, that made you realize you were a reluctant leader?
I think it's just, the responsibility got to me, I think. I didn't enjoy that aspect. And I was probably seeing it from the wrong perspective. I was feeling that it was something that was like dumped on me, and then also things what I was missing as well. So I was doing a lot of the things that I didn't particularly want to do because I sort of had to do them, but also I was missing the things I used to do that I actually really enjoyed. So it's like a double whammy. And I think that's something that sort of a lot of people sort of allow to happen, because they just go along and take the next step without really thinking about, well, actually, is this the right step for me?
Yes.
Especially as a family retail business, family businesses are notoriously that you just take the next role that's given to you, as opposed to a career and preparing you for the next role.
Yes. So what would have helped you in those circumstances, do you think? I'm just thinking for other people that are going through their career thinking, yes, the next step, I've got to take the next step up, and haven't really thought through what that really means.
Well, I mean, nowadays I talk very much about three things. It's about having the right mindset. It's having a process to follow, and also knowing the right skills to use at the right time. That's the thing. So it's boiling it down into those three elements, which I wish I knew. My approach would have been a lot different.
Yes.
I always felt that I was winging it. But as I've said, I didn't do too bad of the job. But it's one of those things that I wish I knew. And it wasn't until I sold my business that I suddenly found the things that I wish I had, which is ironic.
Yes, yes. And so I'm interested, what did you have to learn to let go of as you became the head of the business?
Well, I think let go of that responsibility is one thing. I think realizing, it's not, the business isn't on your shoulders. You're only part of the situation, and it's realizing what part you play. That's the thing, and putting yourself in the position of, that the leader developer is what I sort of talk about. Is if you're developing your team to get the best from them, then that is going to help you and the business. Developing your team, it's obviously it's not rocket science, but it's something that I never really thought of it in those ways that I now sort of talk about almost sort of every day. So that's it really. I think it's just thinking about it in those terms.
Yes, and I'm hearing is about the responsibility is shared. It's not always on your shoulders. Although you might, you're the head of the business and you might feel ultimately responsible. That's a perception, because actually if you can empower others and support others, you're sharing that responsibility really.
It's that mindset thing. The mindset I talk about is the high challenge, high support, which is realizing that you've got to get both right. And if on reflection, I was very supportive. I think that I got that. I think I got that bit right. But what I didn't do was I wasn't challenging enough. I didn't expect enough, and that's the thing that you could say I was too soft or whatever it is. I didn't have high enough expectations of my team.
Yes.
And if you have high expectations, you're more likely to get better results.
Yes.
Obviously, you've got low expectations, you'll get low results. So it's that high challenge, high support model that really sort of came home to me, that actually that's what I should have really focused on, being in that position of high challenge, high support, which would serve me better. I think that would have served me well.
Yes. Okay, that sounds really fascinating. So getting that balance right of high support, high challenge, raising expectations of people rather than having them lower, in order that they had something to attain too would have made a big difference.
Yeah, and another way of putting that is having high. I forget what I'm going to say now, but yeah, it is about having a good. What's the words? I've completely lost the words now. So it's having a high regard for everybody in your team.
Oh,
firstly.
Lovely, yeah.
But also being genuine in the feedback that you need to give them.
Yes.
So it's getting that balance right. So you're not always giving bad feedback. You're getting, you're catching people doing things right and all those sort of things as well.
Yes.
So it's another way of looking at it is having high regard, but also being genuine in the way that you interact and give feedback. Yes.
So some of the things you allude to there, I can resonate with me because there's something around being nice, which I think many of us have been brought up. I'm thinking particularly women, but men too have been brought up that we should be nice, we should be polite, which might be where the set a lower standard came from, I wonder, for you.
Mm-hmm.
So what would you, because there is something about if you are kind as a leader, if you are likable, if you are nice to people, you will get more from people in lots and lots of ways than if you're the opposite. But I'm curious about, say more about the balance of, because it isn't just about being nice, because absolutely just being nice doesn't cut it. It's being nice and what else?
What it's being nice, but if you're too nice, then what you do is you create a team that's dependent on you.
Yeah.
So we want to avoid that. We want the team to develop and have, so we don't feel responsible for them. So that gets back to that responsibility thing. So yes, being nice and looking after them and showing support, but also saying, actually, you probably know the answer to this without having to come to me. And one of the things that I did use actually, and it's something that I've started to sort of with my clients, ask whoever comes to you with a challenge, everyone on your team, say, well, first of all, before we do anything, what would you do if I wasn't here? So they have the opportunity then to say, right, well, okay, if you wasn't here, I would do X, Y, and Z.
Yes.
And then you've got a starting point rather than you being the one that has to solve the problem all the time. So you're sort of deflecting it a little bit, but you're still showing the support, which is just saying, well, I'm going to help you, but before I do that, I want to know what you would do.
Yes.
Then what happens is that if you do that consistently, what you'll find is that those team members will come to you with the problem and the solution first. So you don't have to say that, well, what would you do? Because they'll say, I've got this problem. I was thinking about doing this. And it could be just say, spot on, that's what you need to do. And obviously it saves you time. So it's a time saver in the long run if you start to introduce that, what would you do if I wasn't here, rather than being that overly supportive. I'll solve the problems. Come to me. I'll nurture you and be the person that's there for you, without expecting you to really sort of think about this yourself.
Yes.
So that makes sense.
That absolutely makes sense. It's really, I'm hearing in my world, because I'm a coach, taking more coaching approach with people, helping them find their own solutions. And from doing that, they're then empowered and they grow and are more responsible. And that also tunes into thinking I have around leadership, that actually it's part of your responsibility as a leader to give it away. Give it to other people. You don't need to be doing it all. And in fact, your job is really to make yourself redundant, ultimately, that your team should rise up and be effective enough that they don't, in the end, they might not even need you.
Yeah.
So, which I think for many leaders is a scary thought, because they want to be involved. They want to be included, but that is part of your job, to bring people on and help them grow and develop so they're able to do it for themselves.
It's absolutely. So it's really important to understand the position that your responsibilities, not the responsibilities that you have for everyone, but actually where you stand within the team and your role within that team. And that actually can change. And that's sort of leading on to the sort of process that I sort of talk about is, having a way of moving through a process. So first of all, setting some sort of vision, which is, firstly understanding, well, where are we going? That I think that's one of the things that a good leader needs to do is set the stall out. This is what we're planning to do. This is how we're going to get there, and this is why we're doing it. Most importantly, set that stall out. And then once you start the ball rolling, that's where we're going, is then you do that coaching, as you mentioned, being that coach where you coach people on and support them and develop them.
Yes.
But then you can't carry on doing that all the time, because you get people that just get a bit hacked off. What you need to then is to move on to the more mentoring role, where you start to adapt, that the relationship changes. And then finally, you just get to a position with some people that basically know what they're doing, is a straightforward delegation, because they know exactly what we're doing, how we do it, why we're doing it, and they can take on whatever is given to them, because they know how it all works.
Yes, excellent. And of course, the more you can delegate, the more that frees you up as a leader to be more strategic, to think about the future, to think about what might be going on in our environment around us that might be impacting us, how we might need to respond to that. So all of that is of benefit to you in terms of managing your workload and managing your time too.
I do see that a lot of people are too quick to delegate, though. So I think we've got to guard against too much delegation too soon.
Okay.
So in other words, expecting that people know what to do. So we take on a team that's got a certain amount of skills and they can do the job. We assume that they can do the job. What they need to do is obviously understand the way we do it. And that's obviously, rather than rules and regs, it's more about values. Yes. Understanding the values and why we do things in the way we do them, making sure that's right. So it's about that as well as the way we do things that's important.
Yes. When is the right time to delegate then, do you think?
Well, I think it's some of it's a gut instinct, but I also think that it's about have they proved themselves, they understand how we do things. They've got it, and they live the values of the business. I think that's another thing, is that you throw somebody in just to do a job, then they'll do the job that they know how to do it, but and they'll be quite capable of doing things. But the important thing is connecting to the way we do things around here. Yes, that and the values piece that is so important. That, if you can get everybody on board and living by the values of this business and why we do things, that essentially will set you apart, and you'll get people that are really wanting to follow you as a leader, because they believe in you, not just because of what you do and how you do it, but actually why you do it. Yes.
That's a very important point, isn't it? Always coming back to the why, what's behind the reason you're doing things as well.
Yeah.
Some great insights coming through here. Thank you, Mark. So I'm going to ask you a more personal question now, which is really about your own personal aha moment, which might have been when you realized you were a reluctant leader or not. I don't know. But I'm interested about a time that, a particular circumstance that might have, might have got you to step back, think, oh, gosh, it might have shaken something within yourself and had such an impact. The learning had such an impact that it still shows up in how you lead today. So have you got a particular situation you'd like to share with us?
I think the situation I want to share is that when I first started out after selling my business, I set myself up as a consultant. I then morphed into a coach, because everybody seemed to be calling themselves coaches. And then obviously this is like the niching sort of route we all sort of have to sort of go along. And then I thought, well, actually, I've got lots of experience of a family business. So I should work with family businesses. And I was working with some family businesses at the time. So I started calling myself a family business coach, which was okay, but it didn't really still feel that comfortable. I didn't feel as if, this is what I want to do. I'm really sort of, I believe in this, and this is the problem I want to solve. It wasn't until one day I arranged to have some time with the guy that was doing my sort of branding. I said, look, we need to get some stuff sorted for my social media. So he said, I'll come down, we'll spend a morning on it. And on that morning, the reluctant leader concept came out of that conversation. And I suddenly thought, that's the problem I want to solve. I want to help business owners, particularly that have got to the position where their business now is not serving them. They're not really enjoying what they're doing, because they're spending more time doing what they don't want to do or not motivated by, and also missing out on the things that they do want to do. So there's like this double whammy that they need to be aware of. And that's what happened. And the first thing I did was I created a podcast, which is 60 episodes, which is sort of well, I'm going to bring it back shortly, actually, but probably in a different format. But that was good fun, and I learned a lot from that process. And then set up the website, because before that I was First Class Coaching Solutions, which doesn't mean anything to anybody. But now it's the Reluctant Leader Academy, which is clear. It says what it does on a tin sort of thing, and my website is very much, this is your problem, I can help you with it sort of scenario, as opposed to, I don't see myself as just as a leadership coach. That's the people that I want to help, those business owners that have got to that position of leadership as such, that can actually I want to teach them how to make the most of that opportunity they've got.
So how did that reluctant leader come out in that session? Was it suddenly an insight you got, or what was it that suddenly that's who I am, and that's what I want to, that's who I want to work with?
Yeah, it was, I can't remember exactly the way it came about, but I think Paul that I was working with said something and I said something, and we both said, reluctant leader, that sort of ticks a box, doesn't it? And I said, yeah, I think that really sort of sums up my journey, my story. Yes. And those are the sort of people that I want to help. I want to help those people so that, they don't make the mistakes that I made.
Yes.
And, they don't need to sell the business to do that. That was, I was just lucky that I was sort of saved from a situation where I didn't know quite how to solve it. So I sort of just got my head down and just worked hard, but not really enjoying it. Whereas now, if I was back in that position, I would approach it completely differently.
Yes.
And who knows what might have happened. But I can't remember exactly the way the conversation came about, but it was definitely a pivotal moment in regards to my coaching and what I do now.
And I get there's something about how it resonated with you, and also your story was such a natural fit to come under that title, as it were. So it comes across as really, really authentic.
Yeah, and I'm writing a book, and I know you've written a book, and it was great. I really enjoyed reading it. And when you're writing a book, you revisit certain situations and you put those things into context and how you would have done them differently now, and why this is important until you can tell the story.
Yes.
So that's one of those things that we disregard. And I've just read another book called Your Unfair Advantage, which is a great book. It's just won the business book award.
It has, yeah, I remember last week.
I recommend it. It's really good. But what they're saying there is that you underestimate your unfair advantage. And I guess my unfair advantage is 30 years I've lived the experience, and obviously a lot of people haven't. But also I've come out the other side and I've learned something that would have helped me back in that position. Yes. So bringing that all together, and then and the book process has been really insightful for that, really useful.
Yeah, I can't wait to see it when it comes out. When's your book due out?
Well, I'm in the process, as you know. It takes a while. I think I would have my draft copy done by the end of June this year. That's 2021. So hopefully the back end of 2021 it'll be available if everything goes to plan. Yeah.
Great, that's fantastic. I look forward to seeing that. And will it be called The Reluctant Leader, do you think? Or have you got another name?
Well, at the moment, I have got an idea, but basically it's the Reluctant Leader's Guide to Creating a Business that Sets You Free. Basically, that's
fabulous. Fabulous.
So that's what I'm working
look out for that. Great. So, thank you so much for being with me today, Mark. I can't believe we're nearly at the end of our time again already, which happens to me every week. It all just flashes by. But what parting words would you like to leave people with in these times of, we're still very uncertain at the moment. It's still very strange times that we're living in. Any parting wisdoms that you'd like to pass on to people as a conclusion?
Whenever I talk about leadership, I don't talk about it in a business sense. I talk about it as a life skill. We all have the ability to lead, and if we can leave people feeling better about themselves and making that, just seeing a different perspective, and that, I think that makes a massive difference. Giving someone that feedback that they really, really need, just to push them forward, or sometimes just to pull them back, whichever it might be. But I think feedback is the thing that we should always give, willingly. Yes, willingly, and be open to as well, I guess, too.
Absolutely, yeah. I love the idea of calling it a life skill, because absolutely that's what leadership is.
Mm-hmm.
We all have the potential to be leaders, and we all are leaders in our own lives to a greater or lesser degree, depending on what we're doing. But yeah, fantastic. Great. Thank you so much for joining me today. Go well. I look forward to seeing your book coming out, and I'll be in touch soon as well, because it'll be great to have you back for another occasion when I've got some more things planned for the future.
Good stuff.
So
thank you, Mary.
Thanks, Mark. And thank you to everyone for watching. If you're watching today, please put your comments in the box. If you're watching afterwards, again, please put your comments in the box. We always respond to them. Next week, we have the amazing Bolutiwi Ismishu is joining us. And Bolutiwi is an amazing woman who has worked as a senior leader in the corporate world, works specifically with high-performing, high-achieving women. So if you're one of those and want to avoid burnout, come and watch us next week for my conversation with her. Thank you so much once again for joining us, and I'll see you next week. Bye for now.